Hey friends, welcome to Play Dead Studios. Robin Black, Mark Manaharan over there. We got our friends over here on Periscope. Saturday night, the greatest of all time, one of the greatest martial artists ever. Just think of that. Ever. As long as humans have walked the earth, very close to zero or zero human beings have been better at combat than Demetrious Johnson. Fuck, think about that. I hope Demetrius isn't thinking about that, because the best lose too. They can. They do. It happens. And one of the ways that it happens is if they change something in their perspective. And when they go through the world, striving, wanting, chasing, going for perfection, and they are great, and one day they're like, oh, fuck, I'm the greatest. And they're different. They've changed something about the way they're interfacing with the world. I'm not saying Demetrius will do this, but I just spent a lot of time with George St. Pierre, and he has recovered from the Matt Serra fight. I'm sure the recovery was when he was over Matt kneeing him in the soft tissue of his body in front of 16,000 of the loudest people I've ever heard in Montreal. That was insane. Been a lot of concerts and fights and stuff. Never heard anything like that. And he got a chance to go back. Perspective is a part of why these people are so great. So Demetrious Johnson, we all think you're the greatest. Actually, I don't know. I wonder. I mean, he is the greatest. So does he know it? And how does he think about it? It's interesting. It's fascinating to me. It really is. But so who's he facing? Ray Borg. Can Ray Borg beat Demetrious Johnson? Yeah, of course he can. Of course he can. The last time I looked at something and said, no way, was Cody Garbrandt against Dominic Cruz. No, no way. No way, man. Can't do it. Dominic Cruz is too good. He's too fast. He's too hard to read. People don't touch him. They can't get to him. Cody Garbrandt, we've seen him later in fights. He lost round 2 against a 30th ranked guy, but was able to push hard and edge out of round 3. And the only time he ever didn't knock a guy out. And to knock out Dominic Cruz, you'd have to get to him, and he's very safe early, and that just doesn't. There's no evidence. There's no evidence that Cody Garbrandt can beat. Oh fuck! Over and over and over again, touching him, getting to him, planting. Just that day, it all changed. He just was capable of doing it. There was no information available. He just could do it. I'll never forget that. It was one of the great, the great moments for me was just feeling all that happen. Another time, Ronda Rousey, who I wasn't believing in, I just didn't buy it, was facing Sarah Kaufman. And Ronda had just been, grab him, get to him, get that position she likes, throw him on the ground and armbar him. I'm like, she's not doing that to Sarah Kaufman. These are not the same. There's no evidence. There's no information here. We've never seen her do anything against anybody of this level. And me and Ramdeen were in my apartment, and we were like, you know those horror movies where like people get scared and they're like freaking out, or like in comedy bits or in Funniest Home Videos or whatever, where like somebody just fucking loses their mind and starts dancing and freaking out at like a spider or something. We were doing that when we saw her get to Sarah, get that position, beat the hand fight, get the throw her on the ground, and armbar her. The reason that seemed impossible to me and to Ramdeen, and we just freaked, like we ran. The TV was over there, and we ran into the kitchen. Like, we ran into the kitchen, and we were standing there like people who get scared of a spider. We were very high. But also, it was shocking, right? beating a bunch of soccer moms or whatever. Sarah Kaufman at the time, and I believe still, and I've had her choke me and kick me. Like, and that's a tiny piece of the information. The information is what I am able to witness and know from seeing. Was one of the great fighters and the best fighter she'd ever faced by far. Well, she could do it. These are great moments because you get to learn things. There was, just because there's no evidence, just because you can't see that Ronda had never fought somebody like that. Cody, we'd never seen him capable of doing that. In fact, the only time he went a distance, things change. Cody changed. He grew. He evolved. His mind. The mind is the biggest one. So how does any of these little stories I'm telling you connect to this fight? You're going to look at this fight, and most people will look at this fight and say, Demetrius is stronger and faster. He's better, whatever that means. And then they'll compartmentalize it. Well, he's a better striker. He's a better wrestler. He's got better jiu-jitsu. But none of that is what it is. Demetrious Johnson thinks differently. Man, I just have started to really realize how much information these greats, the great coaches and the great fighters and the great minds, how much information they have. And how many, once you know the questions to ask, what's there. And I have the great fortune that they are kind to me and they appreciate my work. So they'll tell me things. Demetrius's mind and brain and nervous system have changed over time. He's different. He's different than you and I. He is. He's an extension of what we are. But if you don't think that Demetrius sees the universe, the world around him differently than you and I do, you're sadly mistaken. You know who else does? A fastball hitter. There's a million examples. There's a million different. Fastball hitter, obviously, sees the world differently than we do. His ability to see things and process them is different. Demetrius, too. But he's on when he's on, and he's almost always on. But almost is the issue. He's still human. So he needs to go out there and do what he's always done. If he does that, how could he lose? How could he lose? Well, a great moment by Ray Borg. A great moment. And if Demetrious Johnson really is as good as I say he is, and he is as good as I say he is, he's better than I can grasp, to be honest. And I've dedicated my life to this, and I can't quite grasp how incredible this man is at this art form, this combat art. If he is that good, then how can Ray Borg win? Well, one way is Demetrius not be Demetrius that night. So that's on Demetrius. Can Ray influence that in some way? We see people do it. Cody did that to Dominic. He did. I don't know how much Dom has admitted it. A lot of these guys admit it. It's for their own value. They take something out of telling the truth. They learn better by telling the truth. Cowboy said, that Pettis undermined his confidence. It's his own. Pettis didn't do it. He did it. Nate, who said Nate Diaz? Cowboy said Nate got up in his head. Yeah. Michael Johnson admitted Nate also got in his head. We all know. I think Eddie now has to some degree admitted Conor. Also, how classy was that of Eddie? One night Eddie says this is a great night for Conor McGregor, and on the same night Aldo sends a bunch of laughing emojis. Shows the difference. One of them has admitted what happened and is okay with, well, this happened. I will now move forward. The other one, maybe not. But so Cody got in there. So could Borg do that? Is there something he could do physically? He's not going to do it with words. Demetrius doesn't give a shit what you say. Doesn't care what you say. So maybe there. Or maybe he finds a moment. Maybe there's one of those seams. Those are real. It just doesn't apply to what Conor was trying to do with the greatest boxer in the world, Floyd Mayweather. If there is, it's going to be very fucking hard, but if Demetrius is so good at the whole game, maybe there's something wrong with the game. Maybe there's a crack in the game somewhere. Maybe there's a crack in the belief system. The problem is that you'd have to literally have Matt Hume who is one of the highest level coaches at growing what the game is and understanding its malleability and understanding how it changes and flows. You'd have to have Matt be wrong about some of his beliefs of how the game works, and we haven't yet seen that. Doesn't mean it won't happen. Doesn't mean somebody else can't out-evolve Matt, but I don't know that this is the guy to do it. So how could it happen? Sometimes we say luck. Maybe fake one thing and he bites. Maybe it's just whatever that one great thing is. But one thing I can tell you about Ray Borg, and the 125-pound division is different than many of them. When Zach Makovsky fought Dustin Ortiz, those were two of the top. They were both coming off losses, but they were two of the very top fighters in the world at 125 pounds. And when Ray Borg fought this kid, Gian Herrera, I think, is coming off 2 losses. He's a fucking killer fighter, grinder, mentally tough as shit. And that fight, Borg had to will past him for 3 rounds. He had to will past him. That's going to be necessary. You either have to find that moment or create that moment early, or you have to be there all night for when that moment can finally appear or be created. So that'll be there. But truthfully, Demetrious Johnson's the greatest fighter in the world. You have to have the best night you've ever had. But it is possible. It's always possible. And so Matt goes in and prepares his fighter with the knowledge that it is possible, and he needs to be as great as he is. And he probably will be. But it'll be fucking beautiful to see. It'll be beautiful to see. And I'm sorry I didn't compare and contrast their striking, grappling, wrestling, cage work, cardio. But I think you know what the fuck you're seeing here. So let's explore it a little bit differently. That's what we're trying to do. Really excited. Really excited. Demetrious Johnson's a great fighter. One of the greats that's ever walked the earth. Take this chance to watch him. And if Ray Borg can beat him, take this chance to see that. So don't fucking miss this fight. Enjoy the hostilities, my friends.